I'll ask you simple questions. You will answer in short sentences only what you believe to be absolute truth.
Absolute truth. I can do that.
Now, brief as you can, what is your name?
Stanton Carlisle.
Nightmare Alley is something that exists in a realm that I haven't accessed in the past, which is the great narratives of American life that I have admired.
Step right up and behold one of the unexplained mysteries of the universe. Is he man or beast?
Guillermo has typically had fantasy elements in all of his movies, so this film is a first in that it's, you know, a noir thriller.
Mr. Carlisle.
Doctor, how about that?
Please lie down. Guillermo and Kim Morgan have written a really unusual take on the story that's gone down a different rabbit hole.
He beautifully mixes genres. That's what I like about his work. This one has horrific elements in it, but it's really a dark drama with very colorful worlds being explored.
If Shape of Water was about love, Nightmare Alley is about loathing, greed, betrayal. It's about all of those dark underpinnings to what seems to be a very polite society.
Can you read minds?
Yes, I can, under the right circumstances.
I was very much interested in a tale about destiny, about a character that could change his life, and yet his drive, his own hubris, is so strong that it becomes destiny.
I don't think it's like anything Guillermo's ever made before. Every film that he makes, you see this thing that never existed before. This one is very grounded, and yet it feels as though it's very much like in his wheelhouse.
Nightmare Alley is one of the great American novels of the 20th century, and it chronicles the sudden rise and fall of Bradley Cooper as Stan.
Just arrived last night, so I thought.
Of course you did. It's about a man who is finding himself through the world of a traveling carnival and all the people that come with it.
Folks here, they don't make no never mind who you are or what you done. My character takes him in even though he recognizes there's something not right about this guy. This guy's a little off.
Everybody comes to this thing with a different kind of life that they either are running away from or had enough of. The problem with Stanton Carlisle is that he's not meant to fit in.
I still got 5 good pounds of meat and bone right here. Hurt that girl. You get them all.
The carnival world is a magnet for that type of person who doesn't feel that they really belong anywhere else, and yet there's a real unity.
This is a family. There's very much a camaraderie, a sense of the world, and then there's us. But, of course, like any family, there's also betrayals.
To me, it was very interesting to show a carnival where you can have freaks and all these characters that seem to be on the fringes of society, but they are more human in many ways than the people handling the high finance in the big city.
What do I want?
To be found out, same as everybody else.
The film exists in two quite distinct worlds. The world of a carnival, which we understand is full of trickery and deceit, but actually really has a beating heart, like a community in it. And then a polite society that seems to be sort of functional and everyone knows their place, but the darkness that exists in that real world is actually far more threatening and terrifying.
Are you in contact with the beyond?
Well, we've had our share of snake charmers in the past. We deal with them.
Smoke, RJ, and action!
Doctor.
This tale would only work if these great characters are interpreted by great actors. And I think we have one of the greatest casts ever assembled.
All my heroes are in this movie. Bradley Cooper, Toni Collette, Willem Dafoe, Rooney Mara, David Strathairn, Richard Jenkins, and Cate Blanchett. It's like the 27 Yankees, man. It's Murderer's Row.
This is a group of actors who are expert in what they do. He's put together a group of people who can express the eccentricities of this world.
Speak to him.
Films are a symphony, and each actor is a precise instrument.
I believe you know to whom I am speaking now, do you not?
You're correct again.
What Bradley brings is an incredibly moving performance because he has all the goodness and physical beauty and an innate grace to show what could be. And at the same time, he brings the skill of one of the most superb actors of his generation to create and embroid a character of deep, deep darkness. I want to shoot him and design everything around him as you would with a movie star in the 1930s. Everything will be carefully presented to make him look as powerful as a presence would in classic cinema.
An Electra complex, is it?
I wouldn't know about that, but you're not as hard to read as you think, lady.
Cate Blanchett. We are going to present her as one of the grand dames of that period of cinema.
Well, I played Dr. Lilith Ritter, who's a consulting psychologist. But what was really fascinating about playing Lilith is that every day we'd discover a new, deep, dark secret. There's a lot of darkness there and a lot of damage to what seems to be a quite pristine exterior.
All right. I'll give you something. In exchange for the truth.
Truth about what?
Yourself. I give you a little information, and you tell me the truth.
In her scenes with Bradley, watching those two work, I mean, it was really like a battle of the titans.
And I kept thinking about Lilith and Stan's relationship as being a little bit like a dance of death. There's a lot of destructive urges.
Never. That word again. We're going to work on that.
Hurry, hurry, hurry. Find out what it feels like right here on Earth. Let the mirrors show you who you are and who you shall be.
We made the conscious choice of building the carnival, but building it on location. There's nothing like going to a place and shooting it.
The carnival world, every frame that I dare look at blows my mind. It's so exquisite, it's so rich and so saturated, and yet so real.
They just built it, and it was fantastic. It wasn't cut up into little areas. It was complete, so you could shoot almost anywhere.
Come on in! Come on in and find out!
We have spent many months researching and designing the carnival. We have been in the hunt for real carnival props from the 30s, a real Ferris wheel, a real merry-go-round.
This carnival is funky. It's got color and it's got attractiveness to it, like cotton candy, but it has a character of its own. It's got decay and eeriness, and, you know, if the walls could talk, kind of like, ooh, man, there's some dark stuff took place here.
That has a very magical atmosphere, but it's not mannered. It's not stylized to the point of becoming too manicured. It's a reality that we will find identifiable and immediate, and yet is visually incredibly arresting.
It's very Guillermo. That's how I would describe it. I don't think anybody else has his aesthetic. He just understands movies on so many levels that when he makes something like this, you feel like it must have felt back then.
Guillermo's films always have an otherworldly quality that it will allow people also to be told a wonderful story, but then I think they'll be left with a lot of unpalatable feelings about themselves and the world in which they live.
Sometimes you have dark thoughts about yourself, don't you?
There's something about Guillermo's ability to visually unearth monstrosities that make this an amazing addition to his body of work.
Stan sits down, we come behind. I want this to be the modern equivalent of the movies that people complain they don't do anymore. I'm not rendering a classic in a classical way. I'm rendering a classic tale in a very alive and modern way. But we're going to try to bring the same craftsmanship and attention to detail that classic cinema has always brought.
You don't fool people, Stan. They fool themselves. Nightmare Alley it's a dark night of the soul, and it's driven at its center by Stan's unrelenting desire to get to the top at whatever cost.
I've given you a fortune. It's time that you delivered.
When does it end? I want to know.
If you displease the right people, the world closes in on you very, very fast.
Nightmare Alley is a movie that celebrates cinematic style, and we wanted it to feel real. It was a monumental endeavor.
The first thing Guillermo said is, we are not making a film noir film. We're doing a contemporary version of that, a Guillermo del Toro version of that, which has its own kind of visual range.
And action!
Every Guillermo set that I've worked on is very Baroque because his worlds are very Gothic. You know, they're like made-up worlds of fairies and witches and vampires and stuff. This one is very grounded in reality.
For him as a filmmaker, it's a new vision for him, a more mature vision of the world. I think he's just exploring some different parts of his psyche with us as his audience.
We're trying to get some of the cues of the movie from American realism. The idea of modern America that tries to reconcile the pastoral origins of the country with urban and modern living. We went into researching a lot.
The research on this was very much twofold because there's two very different looks in the movie. There's the carnival of the late 1930s, and there's the whole Art Deco realm of Buffalo in the early 40s, which is glitzy and glamorous and a very different look.
Tamara had so many sets that looked real but were constructed, some of them enormous.
The carnival was built outside of Toronto at a fairground. They just built it. You'd go there, and when you'd shoot at night, it was so beautiful with the extras and period costumes, you know, it was fantastic.
One of the decisions was, let's build the carnival on location so we can be affected by the wetness, by the wind. When you are inside a tent and you're outside, the tent breathes like a giant lung. If you build it on stage, it becomes like a cartoon. We rigged the earth underneath the carnival with thousands of feet of line that steamed through the ground, so the atmosphere would have steam all the time. We always kept it muddy and with hay, with texture. We went after every detail.
We had a lot of moving parts. We have a lot of banners. Fantastic designer, Andy Sang, who's basically done all the banners you see in the carnival. I mean, the banners, to me, tell the story, very much so in terms of the colors.
In the carnival, you have all these colors. You have really beautiful pale blues, reds, golds, every color.
It's one area that we just used all the colors for our main carnival. Like, we just kind of exploded with color and then aged everything down so it had this Del Toro kind of feel to it.
The funhouse, actually what we wanted was to create a funhouse that was about religion. So hell and sin and salvation were that dynamic. The barrel is, of course, real. The eye-opening was a real eye on carnivals. The devil mouth, not so much. But I really wanted this idea of transiting through purgatory and the mirrors and all that.
The set is magnificent, where there's just enough glamour and glitz to kind of like get the rubes to kind of throw down their dime. It's damaged goods, as are the people in it. It's brilliantly executed.
And action!
Good, good, perfect.
We have found pristine locations in and around Toronto and Buffalo that seem to be time capsules of what it was to live in at the end of the 1930s, beginning of the 40s. And the locations and the sets needed to blend seamlessly.
The look of Buffalo, which is really known for its Art Deco look, was really influential in the whole look of the movie. There's a visual code that he has. There's certain repetition of shapes, like circles.
The shapes that accompany you from the beginning to the end is the circles. Is the Ferris wheel, the arena, the viewing window in the cabaret. The cabaret itself is two big circles. The circles on the floor and the lamps that are circular in the lobby of Grindle. Stan is always heading for that circle. The one design clearly that felt like the center, like the linchpin of what the movie was Lilith's office. It was elegant but cold. There was a sense of menace to it.
When you look at the sets, there's no need to suspend disbelief when you walk on set because it's all there. I mean, down to the ceilings, every single detail has been really well thought through. I mean, when I first walked into Lilith's office, the room is a character in and of itself. And Tamara Deverell's production design is extraordinary. The wood paneling was like a Rorschach test in and of itself. Every single ornament, you know, the desk, the way the recording devices were hidden, that was fantastic.
You got a smoother line, but you run a racket, same as me.
Is that what this is?
To create Lilith's world, the bulk of it is in this office set that we built. So it's very much trying to make a powerful woman who's glamorous and make this office almost like glowing around her. It was full of wood and warmth and shine, but it was still this geometric kind of configuration that exemplified everything that was her character in terms of strength and power, female power in particular.
You barely know me.
And I knew that that was the set that I needed to do what I call the reveal. In every movie I do, there is a set that gets the reveal. This is what declares a certain aspect of the reality of the movie coming to play. And this moment was needed because you were saying, this is the world that is different from the carnival.
We're at war.
I'm aware.
And that shot is not just to show how great the set is, but it tells you everything you need to know about the character. This is an incredibly powerful, sophisticated, elegant, but threatening space.
I always think, you know, there's bodies in them walls. And a Guillermo del Toro film, there probably usually is.
What is in Guillermo's head in terms of movies and the library of visual references is beyond anybody's imagination, I think. For a production designer, any production designer, to work with a director like him, there's just no comparison. It's a different world.
If you don't ground this movie in reality, then it's a genre artifact, and we wanted it to feel real. The first thing to do is to actually have every frequency of wardrobe possible. You know, a lot of period movies make almost uniforms. We had a kaleidoscope of characters. So Luis Sequeira and I started talking about it, and we said, well, we wanted to have cardigans, leather jackets, people that worked as mechanics, people that worked as executives. We didn't want everybody dressed like an ad from a catalog.
This film is quite huge. I mean, just in the carnival, we have 242 costume changes, probably another half of that in the city. So it's a lot of clothing, a lot of costumes.
He fabricated an enormous amount of wardrobe. Even with these restrictions, this is an incredibly fabrication-heavy film for Luis and the wardrobe department.
We built so much on this film, and then an important part of any Guillermo movie is the aging of the costumes. And so even in the city, the costumes were aged so that they went back from costumes to clothing. And in the carnival, everything was pretty beaten down to give it the feeling that people have owned these garments for years.
Luis Sequeira and I had a big meeting in which the boundaries were defined that we could build most of the wardrobe for all the main cast.
Guillermo wanted very few costume changes, so each character from Stanton down to our minor characters would have a very specific, iconic look.
We wanted to classify and understand the characters very, very fast. Molly was a life, was red. We abandoned the color red when we leave the carnival. And it exists only on Molly and the Salvation Army sign. Xena had greens and golds, sort of life, earth, grass. You know, she was earthy.
Luis has done the most incredible job with all of the costumes. This is actually my favorite. This is a particularly kind of tomboyish traveling outfit. And then, yeah, she looks very different in the performance mode, almost priestess-like.
Dafoe was black leather. He was hard and flinty and uncaring, but seductive.
Very early, Luis started experimenting with things, and I did quite a few fittings, and he's very precise, and he also lets you weigh in to make you feel comfortable.
Kate and Bradley and our other actors were brought in early where we're able to actually craft a look.
It's always a relationship that I really prize when you start having costume fittings and that dialogue about how a character's going to look. There's such important physical propositions that you then have to inhabit or adapt.
For Kate, the room was elegant, and so the character was also very elegant and affluent, old money. It was exciting to actually design clothing that showed that, and the textures and the lines. Being able to dress Cate Blanchett in one's life, I could die now, thank you.
We're going to work on that.
As for Stanton, he really goes through a transformation from being quite poor to being quite rich. We looked at various, iconic styles that would help to tell that story very quickly. There were instances of cut and drape and fit.
That's the one.
What was important with that was that Stan looks like a helper. He looks like a helpless. He looks like a master, a powerful figure, a preacher. He is very much a mercurial character. He can transform according to the circumstance.
Can you watch my tie, please?
I'll watch it.
Thank you.
Stanton has a certain dandy aspect that you will not see in this old money crowd.
Let me take your jacket, please.
Stanton being just on the other side of, not garish, but just a bit nouveau riche. Visually, between the sets, even the hair, makeup, costuming, we were able to create these two polar opposite worlds. Everything matters, whether it's seen or not. If it gets to be seen, then it's got to be as perfect as can be.